Once upon a time, in the year 1969, on the island of Long, there were five friends: John Vici, Mike Maniscalco, Chuck Alder, Mike Ricciardella, and Richie Cerniglia. They all played musical instruments and decided to form a psychedelic rock band. They called themselves the Five Illusions, and people in and around Long Island liked them very much. They liked them so much that the band was able to drop five from their name, and they released their first record, The Illusions. Did You See Her Eyes was a moderate national hit, peaking at number 32. It hit number one in a few New York charts, but it was their only song to get inside the top 40. The record is a great reminder of everything that's right with garage: drum solos with a vengeance, a little bubblegum, a little fuzz, and a whole lot of fun. The band toured a lot, usually opening for other bands like The Who, Sly and the Family Stone, Jimi Hendrix, and Chicago. But after three records and confusion in the band's direction, they broke up. Chuck Alder joined various bands over the years and taught bass on Long Island. He lost his battle with cancer in December of 2025. John Vici and Mike Maniscalco went off to do their own thing for a bit. Richie Cerniglia went out to play with Hall & Oates. That left drummer Mike Ricciardella. His friend, Pepe Castro from the Blues Magoos, happened to be in the Broadway cast of Hair, along with songwriters and musicians Bobby and Billy Alisi, who are also from Long Island. They decided to form a band, and in 1973, their band, Barnaby Bye, released their first record, Room to Grow. Not many people cared. So in 1974, they put out another record called Touch. Even less people cared. Both records are just sort of boring. Basically, they're ELO-type harmonies accompanying soft rock songs that would feel bullied by the Bay City Rollers. In 1976, the Alisi brothers had a top 10 hit in the UK called Oh Laurie, and they went off to tend to their overseas fame. That left Pepe and Mike. They got a hold of former Illusion members Mike Maniscalco and Richie Cerniglia and asked them if they'd like to be in a band. They said yes, but we need a bass player. So they asked their other friend, Dennis Feldman, if he would like to play bass. And he said, sure, but I want my name on the record to be D. Santiago. And everybody said, okay. So they put out the self-titled Wiggy Bits in 1976. Wiggy Bits comes off harder than any of the other records that these guys had put out up to this time, but there was nothing exceptional about it. Polydor tapped the song Ellie for a single, but even with Tommy Mottola and Jimmy Iovine on the Wiggy Bits team, the band only put out one record, which is probably okay. Realizing that this isn't working out for the best, Pepe Castro went off and started his own band, Balance. Dennis Feldman formed Speedway Boulevard and played a lot with Michael Schenker and Michael Bolton. That left Mike, and Richie. They reached out to some friends and they said, hey, you want to be in our band? And they all said yes. So in 1977, Network was formed with George Bitzer on keyboards, John Paul Gaspar on percussion, Howard Davidson on bass, former Illusion singer John Vici, Richie Cerniglia and Mike Maniscalco were on guitars, and Mike Ricciardella was on drums. You sound great, guys, but your names sound too Italian. From now on, Richie Cerniglia, you'll be known as Richie C. Mike Maniscalco, you'll be known as Mike Coxton. What about me, Mike Ricciardella? What will I be called? The drummer. The first Network record may be one of the purest forms of yacht rock available. Take that as you will. Yacht rock isn't terribly interesting. These guys knew how to play well together, but unlike the Illusion records, the energy just isn't there. Even with Barry Gibb and his production team of Albie Galutin and Carl Richardson, there just isn't much to run with. The record fizzled and then flatlined. So, before the next record, the band decided to make some changes. John Vici was out as lead singer, and musical theater actor B.G. Gibson was in. Epic Records swapped out the B.G. production team for Eddie Leonetti, who just got out of the studio with Angel. And Mike Ricciardella wrote more rock-driven than yacht-driven songs. The result, Nightwork, was an album akin to a New Yorkish-style Styx or Kansas. They did include one cover, the Jerry Goffin Carole King composition Halfway to Paradise, a weird choice considering it's a crooner song. It was first recorded by 16-year-old Tony Orlando, almost 10 years before he would become part of Tony Orlando and Dawn. English singer Billy Fury's 1961 version went to number 3 in Canada and became his signature tune in the UK. And even the Polish prince, Bobby Vinton, covered it in 1968. All three of these versions are pretty interchangeable. A lot of strings, a lot of surging background vocals, and pretty typical arrangements. The song was written as it was to be performed. It's Goffin King. It does what it is expected to do. Interestingly, Nick Lowe put it out as a single in 1977, the year before Network included their version on Nightwork, which was their final record. Network's version of Halfway to Paradise is probably the most original of all, breaking away almost entirely from earlier versions. But it wasn't enough. The record did nothing, and the band went their separate ways. Information about John Paul Gaspar and Howard Davidson is unclear. B.G. Gibson went back to singing musical theater. And George Bitzer played keyboards for Barry Gibb, Barbra Streisand, and Diana Ross, among others. The remaining members of Network and The Illusion continue to perform as studio musicians or in their own bands. In 2023, The Illusion was inducted into the Long Island Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame. Mike Manasalco's wife accepted her husband's honor as the guitarist died in 2018. This was the second time that Mike Ricciardella received this honor. He was inducted in 2012 with the Alisi Brothers and Pepe Castro for Barnaby Bye. These records are probably all available in the cheaps, maybe $1 or $2 more on Long Island. I put the full record links up on bandsofthelost.com along with other weirdness. If you'd like to hear about other records you may or may not have owned back in the day, feel free to subscribe to Bands of the Lost YouTube channel or check us out at bandsofthelost.com. Happy digging!